This is the narrow gauge train that runs from Durango, Colorado.
We put you on a train.
Narrow gauge track to Silverton, Colorado, an old silver mining town, high in the mountains. It's a very popular tourist ride. These pictures were taken in the early 60s when it was a little easier to get reservations. You just sort of went into Durango, bought your tickets, and got on the train the next morning. Now people make reservations months and months ahead of time. It's a beautiful, well-preserved part of the Old West. Some of the original railroad cars and they take you to show you the difficulty, the terrain, building this stuff with picks and shovels. This is one of the most scenic parts, where it runs high above the Animas River. If you look out the side of the train and down, it can be pretty scary. The train sounds wonderful. The old steam engines chugging up these steep inclines. There, that gives you an idea. Hopefully, it always stays on the track, but they go around these turns pretty slow. Beautiful place. If you're ever out in Colorado, plan on taking this ride. Not just copying this off of old 8mm movie films with my little point and shoot Canon camera, showing it on the screen and just filming it. Can't capture the sounds of the train, but if you've ever been on an old steam engine, you know the beautiful sounds they make. Puffing and puffing and chugging up the hills. Beautiful pine forests, steep bluffs. One of the most beautiful parts of the Rocky Mountains. The train dips down into valleys here, runs along the Animas River. You see the river right on the left. Carries melting snow down from the top of the Rockies. Just beautiful. I wish I could bring the sounds of this train into the film. Okay, steam engines get thirsty. They have to stop a couple of times on this climb up to Silverton and refill the water tanks. Then it's back on its way again. You hear the old projector chugging away in the background. Doesn't sound nearly as good as the steam locomotive would if I could have captured that. If I ever get out there again, I'll take a good high-definition video camera. One of the days I went up on top of the high bluffs and caught this view of the train going along the Animas River and spliced it in here. Now back on board. Black smoke, cinders, steam flies around. Nothing clean about steam locomotives, but they sure sound great. Another great steam train. If you're ever up in Skagway, Alaska, they run a train from Skagway up the old Gold Trail to Whitehorse, Yukon Territory. But this one's a little more readily accessible, right in the middle of Colorado. Nice flat area. It was a little easier building the railroad through this part than through that high cliff that we traveled over earlier. Another narrow spot along the river. through the pine forest. Another stop for water. Nothing more beautiful than a river that runs through valleys in the Rocky Mountains. Deep valley. The valleys open up, there's some flat plain area. And then they narrow down into those valleys again. There's a look out the back by an old water tank that's been abandoned. Shows you where we've been. Bridge. Looks pretty new. Oh yeah, there's the old one. Most of this stuff was built in the late 1860s, 1850. Big gold rush, silver rush were up high in the mountains. Here's another view of the train pulling into Silverton. There's another stop for water. You can carry enough coal, enough fuel, but you can't carry enough water on the steam engines. You gotta stop refill when you're going up these steep grades. You won't want a derailment here. Wouldn't it be nice to work as an engineer, run this thing up and back every day, Durango to Silverton and back. Okay, pulling in. Okay, Silverton, here we come. Get ready for the tourists. Greets the visitors. Here's what the visitors see when the train gets to Silverton. Not a whole lot to the town, but it's just like rebuilt buildings from the old days. Log cabins, a couple of saloons,